Today marks the 1 year anniversary date of the passing of the late Walter Scott of the legendary Whispers. And I thought there'd be no better way to celebrate it than to kick off a podcast with my uncle, Wallace Scotty Scott, who's going to give us all the insight and stories on what led to their 60-year successful career. So sit back and enjoy episode 1. So it's been about 6 months, man.
Yeah, how well do I know that? 6 months and counting.
Yeah, the grief is, I think it's tough for all of us, I think for me, that word fathers kind of means having a security layer there that you no longer have. So to have that removed has taken a lot of adjustments. How's it been for you?
Well, honestly speaking, I'm still grieving. To be honest with you, I have good days and I have bad days. And I mean, like, what I could be, one day I could kind of get through it. Other days, the slightest thing that can remind me of something that, I could be riding in my car and having a great day, and then out of nowhere, I might have to pull over because I start thinking about my brother, So I guess the short answer is that I'm still grieving and probably going to be grieving for a while, and as far as I'm concerned, however long it takes, that's however long it takes. So you can only do what you feel.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I think there is no end to it. I mean, you can't say it's going to be over in 2 weeks or 6 months. You just kind of go with it.
Yeah. You just have to kind of, I'm trying to learn how to live. I'm not going to ever get over it. I know that. But I am trying to learn how to live with it because the saying goes, life goes on. I'm finding that that's true. Mm-hmm. You can grieve all you want, but the people around you, they go on and they just do whatever's needed, while you're still grieving. So you just have to jump in there and, like you said, deal with it as best you can. That's basically what I'm doing.
I think Steve Hardy put it best for me when he said, your father is the only man in your life that wants you to be better than him. Mm-hmm. More importantly, he's the only man on this planet that wants you to be better than him. Mm-hmm. So to lose that is very, very difficult because you're constantly looking for, I'm proud of you. Mm-hmm. And not just from anybody, but from him.
Yeah, it means a lot coming from him. I can relate back to when my own father died, our father, me and Walt's father, and it was the same thing. You over the years you just start learning how to live with. But there is a slight difference, even with as much as I love my father, Lord knows I love me and Walt, we loved him to death. With twins, it's a little different. I find that part of you is gone. And it's just a natural progression, I guess. Mm-hmm. Because I remember when I lost my dad, me and Walt, we both went through. It took us a minute, to get over it and all that. And it's just, but this is a little bit different. It's like I done lost a part of my being. Because when I think about the roles that Walt played with me and the group and everything, it's going to take some time to get through that.
Who was he? Who was Walter Scott?
Walter Scott was really the leader of the Whispers. He was the one that came in, took care of the business administratively, business-wise. As a matter of fact, it's kind of funny. Before Walt came into the group, because I was so artistically oriented, I didn't even think about business. I thought, as a matter of fact, I didn't have a true value of what we would do. I was enjoying it so much that I couldn't really get to the value of it. Walt was different.
Yeah.
When Walt, because for a while, he left the group, and when he came back, we had got to a certain level. But when he came back in the group, not so much as artistically, but business-wise, he started asking questions. These questions that I probably should have been asking about, I wasn't even concerned about. I didn't really care about. All I wanted to do was sing, chase the girls, and go through what the average young guy goes through. But he started asking questions. money questions. Well, why is this like this, and why is, and it got got on some people's nerves, you know. So, but for him, that's why he was the leader, because he's the one that introduced that to said this is all good and well, but you know there's some value to this, and we need to kind of know.
Let's go and get paid.
Let's get paid. You know, he wasn't satisfied with. I was very easily satisfied. He wasn't. So I guess the short answer is that he was really the true leader. Him and Nick. I will give Nick part of that too, because they both. The rest of us, we were too busy having fun.
It's interesting you say that, because looking from the outside in, for a lot of people, you being the front man on stage, they would think you're the leader. But the way the good man works upstairs, my dad was the leader the whole time.
He was the leader. Even before when he left the group, because he went to Vietnam, you know, Walt went to the service, you know, with twins, you know, you could only take the oldest brother, the law says, so I didn't have to go through military anything. Walt did all of that. So when he left, we were at one stage, but when he got back, we had advanced. We had really gotten to the point to where we were pretty polished and, you know, professional. And it took him a minute to kind of get over that. You know,
now, how long was he gone?
He was gone for like 2.5, 3 years. Central Highlands in Vietnam, radio operator. And he went through that whole thing.
What was that like in the Scott household with you and my grandmother when you guys got the news, and my dad, that he was going to be the one going off to Vietnam? How did that happen? How was that handled in the household?
As I remember it kind of scared us to death, because our thought was that our only thought was that we know he got to go, but we want him to come back. And again, you know, with twins, you know, when one leaves, you know, we had been so used to being together all the time. To be separated for that long, it took me a minute to even get over that. You know, what helped me was the fact that I was still singing, and I could concentrate on that. But the answer to your question, it was worry, because during that time, you know, we had friends that didn't come back, and some that did. So our prayer was that we know he got to be over there, but we want him to come back. So it took a minute to get used to that also.
So you say he played the role, Walter Scott played the role of leader. Outside of the business realm of the Whispers, what did that really mean, the leader?
Well, there were two aspects. There was the artistic aspect that I had gone through, you know, just enjoying singing. I mean, singing became very easy to me. I started out wanting to be a musician. You know, I was fooling around with the keyboard, trying to play drums. And to be very honest with you, it was boredom that took me away from that. I didn't have the patience. And to this day, I wish I had, especially with keyboard. I've always regretted the fact that I didn't keep interested, because that would have took me even further than we went. But singing was like talking to me. You just can't. And so, Walt too. We as little kids, we were blessed with being able to sing. I remember singing at 5 years old.
Really?
In tune.
Wow.
I mean, you know, that's something.
Now, from what you heard on the radio?
We heard, yeah. I mean, we didn't have no lessons, or, you know, we just, not on the radio, what we saw on TV. We could pretty much mimic anything we saw.
Really?
You know, oh, yeah. From 5 to on, whatever we saw and heard, we could do.
Now, were you guys singing in the church coming up, or?
We would go to church, but we wasn't so much singing, because church was, so for some reason, me and Walt both, we thought church was funny. Well, what I mean by that is, you know, we'd go to church and we'd see black people falling out. And the preacher to me was like James Brown. I mean, the sermon was like, it was a sermon, but it was a performance.
Right.
And we just thought that was the funniest thing. As a matter of fact, my mother and father used to get so mad at us because we would embarrass them, because we said, Dad, they look crazy. You know, it was brother man going with that robe on, and I knew it, you know, all that. That was just comical to us. So, but we could sing, you know. So we got a bit of the gospel thing, but what we were into was watching television and see who came on TV, and we could mimic that. And it helped us, in terms of versatility, I would say. Later on, we didn't realize it then. But it was just a thing that came real easy to us.
Wow. Now, being a twin, as you guys were, talk a little bit about maybe sometimes it's frustrating to be a twin,
For us, we went through, your father, my brother, was what I call a neat freak. He was neat and I wasn't. And it irritated him to death. He would be irritated because him and my father both, we dressed alike. It was very important to my father that we looked alike, as much alike as all time. So for years, we went to the point to where we would dress alike, and I finally got to the point where I said, I'm just not doing this no more. I called him Junior. I'm not dressing like Junior. Junior ain't got to dress like me. Mm-hmm. Well, that irritated your father. He would prepare our clothes. Your father could do laundry better than the laundry. So he would do my clothes, iron my clothes, Sometimes, I remember we got into one of the biggest fights we ever had was about me putting on mixed max socks. And I deliberately did it to irritate him, we end up having a fist fight because he wanted me to take the socks off. I'm not leaving on. And I never will forget that day that we were out in the front yard. We were fighting, but we wasn't really trying to hurt each other, but we was fighting. My mother walked up and saw us out there going through, fights. She kept right on in the house, didn't say nothing. She saw we was fighting and came back out with a broom and started beating me and him both for fighting each other, because that irritated her. But back to your father, Walt was the neat one, and I was the one that, whatever it is, it's all right. I didn't want to. So we got to a point to I think we were around 11 or 12. I got to the point that I didn't want to dress like no one. It irritated him and my dad. Mm. So that's, you got a good twin, you got a neat twin, and answer to your question, that was the difference between us.
And he's always been that way. Yeah. I saw that my whole life. You're absolutely right. And meticulously neat. And
when it made it worse when he went to the service, because when he went to the service, the service teaches you to be. He was already that way, but he got even worse because when he went to the army, it had to be, he told me everything had to be spit sharp and everything. So he only got worse.
Wow. Now, I think it's important that we also capture who exactly was Alberta Abney Scott and Walter Scott Sr. and just the influence that they have had on you guys. And who were they?
Well, they were my parents. Alberta Scott was my mom. Walter Scott was my father. And they separated along the way. And they kind of went their separate ways. So we were sort of raised by both. There were times we were living with my father. Other times we was with my mom. And but they both supported us, music and they always knew that we would want to get into music, and they both supported that highly.
Wow. So, Uncle, how do you continue to go on? I mean, what's making you tick at this point?
That's a great question because, as you well know, the last couple of weeks of my brother's life, your father's life, it took me that long to realize what was taking place. Now that Walter's actually gone, I really believe, knowing Walter the way I do, I think he knew, but we didn't. I mean, up until the last day, I actually thought it was going to get better. I couldn't get in my mind. It never dawned on me that my brother would pass away.
Right.
Up until the week that he died, the last few days when he got worse. But the reason why I now know that I kind of think he knew, because there were signs that I didn't recognize then, that when I think about it, one would be, he said to me, he said, Bill, listen, there's two things that you got to do if anything happens to me. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, take care of Jan and keep the legacy going. Because he knew I was not trying to stop the legacy, but a fear years ago, I had told him, I said, you know what, Walt, I mean, I know you want to do this, but you know, as far as I'm concerned, if we stop this tomorrow, I won't be mad at nobody. I'm ready to kind of call us. He said, well, I'm just the opposite of you. He said, I'm not gonna be sitting there looking at television and going and drifting away. No, especially he said, I'm not, especially when there's money to be made, you know. And I said, well, I understand that. So I said, but if so, you want to keep going? He said, yep. I said, well, if that's what you want to do, that's what I'll do. So the way what's keeping me going now is that my brother wanted me to keep this alive, and if that's what he wanted, that's what I want.
So talk a little bit about just being on stage with my dad and what that felt like in terms of the role he played, the role you played. How was that dynamic from a performance standpoint?
Well, we almost did that like we did recordings. We divided up the recordings. You know, the certain songs that we did back in the recording days. I always sung about a half step higher than my brother, depending on what the song would call for. If it was if it was in my range, I would do the lead. If it was his range, he would do it. And other times we would just divide up. He'd take a verse, I'd take a verse. And that's kind of what we did on stage. You know, we followed the recording that we had done. We knew who had done what. And if it was a song that I did the first verse on the record, that's what I would do on stage. But the good thing about twins is that they can almost talk to each other without even saying anything. You know, the feel that you have, you know, I could almost sing in unison with my brother when I know I needed to without him even telling me, because it just felt right. You know, and I think with brothers and sisters, if you look at a lot of groups like your Jacksons, the Emotions, people they always were tighter, and that's because they just feel. I don't know what it is about your blood. It's something that you feel, and twins are even more so. They can read each other. Me and Walker look at each other and kind of know what each other's thinking without nobody else knowing it. And that's just a twin thing. I think all twins go have that.
Wow, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
It's a luxury,
and that's been that way the whole time.
Oh yeah.
From the very beginning.
From the very beginning, you know, we would always could feel off of each other, you know, and like I said, as kids, we could pretty much mimic everything and do that we wanted to do musically, and we could feel each other, and I do believe most twins are like that.
Now, the instruments, because you guys said you might have played some instruments when you were younger.
We started out. I remember my father went and bought us instruments, but neither one of us, in my opinion, had the patience to stick with it. We stuck with what came easiest, which was singing. You know, I started out wanting to pick it out just out of curiosity, wanted to pick with the keyboard, and to this day I can pick out whatever chords I need or whatever. I wouldn't call myself a fluent keyboard player, but I could play good enough that if I want to pick out a chord, you know. But for some reason, the interest didn't stay with me. And that was a mistake I think we both made. You know, Walt wanted to be a horn player, and my father bought him a saxophone player. After 2 or 3 days with that, he got bored with it. You know, and so the only thing that kept our interest was singing. And that was the easiest thing, and that's how it ended up.
Now, see, for me as a kid, growing up with you guys, sometimes being in the back seat or just being around you, you know, I would watch you or hear you guys get tapes. You know, I remember when you got the Babyface tape when it was just raw before you had a chance to. And, you know, you guys were kind of talking about who was going to sing what part. Take us from that moment with most of the new songs all the way up to the recording and what happens. Because from my angle as a kid, I would just see, okay, they got a new tape, and it sounds really hooky, you know, whatever it is that they've gotten. Take us through that a little bit.
Well, let me start with the styles between me and Walt. Basically, blues and jazz was more my thing. Pop and R&B was more Walt's thing, especially pop. You know, Walt could give you a good example. Most younger people may not, but they should know who Nat King Cole is. But a lot of them probably don't even know who he is. But he was a
crooner.
He was a crooner. You say crooner, but today they would call he was more of a pop singer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jesse Belvin. You know, he was an R&B and crooner.
Mm-hmm.
Walt was one that I always favored jazz and blues. I love jazz and blues. I could sing R&B. The biggest success I've ever had has been in R&B.
Mm-hmm.
But my true heart is with jazz.
It's with jazz and
bebop, blues, and that's kind of the way. So when songs would come in, would have hinges of those. If it had more blues in it, I was gonna do the lead. If it was more pop, Walt was gonna do the lead.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. So with that said, what I want to do with each podcast is go over a song or maybe even sometimes a whole album.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to play a little bit of it first. And then I would like for you to do just what you just said. Tell us who's singing what verse. Maybe give us a little bit more insight into how the song was developed, where did it come from, who was the producer. Yeah, it's Is that you or my dad?
I did this whole.
Oh, really?
The song was done up in Oakland with me and friends of mine. Walt was out here in L.A.
Really?
It's interesting when we talk about it. I'll give you the layout how it actually came about.
Yeah, you go ahead and cut it.
First of all, this song was brought to us by, that was where you find it was a country white singer. This guy was a country guitar player. Dick Griffey, who was the president of Solar Records, you know, his hometown is in Nashville, Tennessee, which is, you know, basically country.
Yeah.
So he knew a lot of country artists, even though he was running Solar. But anyway, this one country artist, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's been so many years, I can't even remember his name, but I remember the song because...
But did he bring you a tape?
He brought us a cassette tape of this song.
Through Nick? through Dick.
Dick Griffey.
Through Dick Griffey.
With the guy singing it. The white guy, whoever he was.
Right.
He was singing it. When we heard the song, we fell in love with it. Not so much because the way he sung, he was a hell of a singer, and you could tell he was white, but he had a twang. Which, that country thing, there's a twang that goes with it. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But the lyrics trumped all of that. When we heard what he was saying and the way he was saying it, of course, we fell in love with the song. And I said to Dick, Dick, you know what? I've been wanting to produce a project, and I'm going to ask you to allow me to produce this song. He said, you want to produce this whole song by yourself? I said, yeah. I want to go up to the Bay, get some friends of mine, which I did. Long story short, go back at me. He said, okay, I'm going to allow you to do this. He said, if it works out great, fine. If it don't, then we'll go in and we'll get other people. So he gave me the opportunity. I went to the Bay Area and got people like James Levi, who was the drummer in our band at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Ray Obiedo, who was a jazz guitar player, a good friend of mine. Tony Lufrano.
Wait a minute, is that him?
That's
wow.
That's Ray Obiedo, one of the baddest guitar players, jazz, you know.
Because he doesn't get the credit he deserves on that song.
He later, but that was so early. Didn't nobody really know who he was then. He wasn't who he later became, because he later did a lot of jazz albums. If you go to Blue Note, you'll find Ray Obiedo. I mean, he's a hell of a guitar player. But this was when he was a younger guy. Didn't nobody know who he was.
Really?
Oh no! I mean, and then the keyboard was Tony Lufrano.
Heck of a job.
But anyway, we recorded the track and everything, and the day that we recorded the track, every time I hear the song, I remember I had actually gotten hoarse, and I said, "Oh man, if I'm gonna be able to do this vocal because I was hoarse, but it wasn't so bad that I couldn't sing. So I went on in and did it anyway.
Probably brought you down a couple of notes.
No question. It gave me a whole other feel. It gave me the feel that really the song was needed.
Yeah.
So that's why I said I don't know if it was fate or whatever. But anyway, I went in and recorded it. And the only problem, that when I brought it back to Dick, he said, man, you know, there's some fluctuation going on. And he wasn't lying because, you know, Dick, people didn't realize Dick had a hell of an ear himself. And he heard, you know, but I remember just before we finished the song, Rio Beato and James Levi kind of got into not a tussle, but a disagreement because the drummer, James being the drummer, he was fluctuating. And it irritated Rio Beato. He said, man, I love the song, but he got to keep the, you know, there wasn't no drum machines back then.
Right.
With a drum machine, you never had that problem. Right. That's why they came up with...
I think you lose the feel of that song without it.
Yeah. Oh, no. To me, that's why we kept it. Because even with the fluctuation and my horses, it felt so good, we kept it.
Wow.
And that's what you hear today.
Wow. That's a beautiful song.
Yeah, it worked out one of the biggest songs, one of our favorite songs. That and some other songs, when we do a show, that's got to be in it.
Love is where you find it.
Love is where you find it.
It's such a signature. It's almost like And the Beat, but it's more of a mid-tempo.
Yeah.
You know, and I love it, man. That's why I wanted to showcase it.
Well, I'm glad you picked a good one to showcase. Great song.
Wow.
Great song.
Now, when you guys first started this, did you think it would be 60 years?
No. That's the thing that's amazing to me, that I'm still singing now. I'm getting ready to do a show this coming weekend.
Now, where's the show going to be?
Palm Springs, Coachella, right outside. Really? I should say Coachella Casino. It's we do a lot of casinos these days, but in answer to your question, you're right. If anybody had told me that me or the Whispers would be singing this long, I never would have believed it.
Wow.
The only person who kind of knew it and said it early was Dick Griffey. He made a statement, and we all laughed about it. Said, man, y'all gonna be singing till you're 80 years old, man. And we said, man, you crazy. He was right.
He was absolutely right. And had the foresight to see it.
Had the foresight to see it. Exactly.
If you had to do anything differently, what would that be?
No. I think my attitude is that a lot of our fans have come up to me and said, man, you know, you guys really don't get your just due. You guys have... You know, you've been passed over this, and that's probably true. But to me, the man upstairs decides what is and what's not. And we have had a hell of a career. For me to be singing 60 years, I still can't believe it. I have to pinch myself. You know, the only thing that's missing for me now is my brother.
But he's here. And he's always here in me.
Exactly. Thank God for that.
And the thing about it is, I think about him. I see you, but you're not him.
No.
But you're him.
Yeah, and I see, when I look in the mirror, I see him. I told my wife, I said, this is amazing. The only problem I have these days, when I look in the mirror now, I see Walt. I don't see me no more.
Wow. In his spirit?
Yep. I'm just hoping that when I knew we were going to do this today, my biggest problem was trying to get through it, because we're sitting there in his office, and when I look here's our whole career, when you look through this office, and I was just saying, I just hope I can get through this, because some days I can do this and there's no problem, and other days I can't handle it.
Now, you said meticulous, neat freak. He also had a standard now.
Oh, yeah.
So to be his son, I can't tell you.
Oh, no, I know.
Sometimes with that pressure.
Yeah, you caught it, didn't you?
It was like.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I
my
understand.
dad had a way, he never touched me physically.
No.
He wasn't that type of guy. But he can let you know when he's disappointed.
Oh, yeah.
And I would feel like 1,000 pounds of bricks on me when I would disappoint him.
I know exactly what you mean.
But somebody mentioned to me the other day, a pastor did. He said, you ever thought about the fact that your father passing might have been reason for him to get out of the way for you? And man, that hit me like a million. Wow.
Well,
that was so deep. He basically saying he had to get out of the way for you.
For you to do your.
Now that's the ultimate sacrifice.
And you know the beauty in that, Sean, is that you doing this. See, I know your father. He would be so proud of what you're doing now. You keeping not only the Whispers legacy, but your dad's legacy. You keeping it going for, and that's what he wanted. Mm-hmm. You know, so, but like you said, it's tough because you look at it. It's you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Because I know you probably said that's all good and well, but I still would rather have him here.
I'd rather have him here.
Know, I would too.
But even though he's not here, he's still here because I'm thinking, is the lighting right? Is the sound right? Is this? That's him.
That's all him. See the things that you worried about? I never worry about those things. Walt used to get at me like right now. When I would go in the studio, I didn't know what I was going to do and I didn't want to know. Mm-hmm. Your father was prepared. Mm-hmm. That was the difference between, that's another thing, that when we would go in and record, you know, him and Nick and Grady, they were very high on preparation. Mm-hmm. And I used to irritate them because I was not. Mm-hmm. They said, Scotty, if I come in and I feel good that day, that's what you're going to get on the tape. If I don't, we can cut today. I'll see y'all tomorrow. And it ran your father crazy because he would rehearse things. He'd like to go in and rehearse and prepare. I said, Junior, I don't want to know what I'm going to do.
Well, you said it in the beginning, being someone that's really based on passion.
Yes.
If you can't bring it, you can't bring it.
And certain things you can't practice.
Can't fake it.
You can't fake. You know, you got to do what's. And the big thing for me is feel. Mm-hmm. My thing was, Walt had a feel too, but my feel was, I don't know what it's gonna be. Mm-hmm. And whatever it comes out, that's what's gonna be on the mic. But for me to sit up and say, let me practice this, I can't do that. Your father could.
You know, I'm finding out more about my own daddy and his death than he was.
It's amazing
when he was alive.
Yeah.
You know? And all I can do is try to keep up and keep the legacy going. But I think not only did he get out of my way, I think you and I both was left here for a reason. Well, you have to tell this story. Because if you don't tell the story, who's gonna tell it?
And you know what? I don't mind telling you this, Sean. Me and Walt, I used to say to him, and he would say to me, look, if one of us got to go, we both want to be the first one. He didn't want to be. He wanted to be the first. He wanted to be me, and vice versa. To this day, I said, well, knowing that's the way it is, I wonder why did he take him instead of me? But if he was here, that's what Walt would be saying too. Neither one of us didn't think, and so maybe that's the reason why I'm still here, because I've asked that question since my brother has passed. Why am I still here? You know, of the two of us, he was the most healthiest. You know, I've never smoked, I never drank, neither did Walt. But if you want to call either one of us sickly, neither one of us was. But if it was going to be one of us, it was more me. I spent more days in the hospital than he did. So I always assume, I said, well, one good thing, I ain't got to worry about trying to grieve my brother because he going to have to grieve me.
Would you say he's more disciplined?
Who, Walt?
As a person?
Oh, no doubt. He was definitely more disciplined. Mm-hmm. Preparation was his thing. He was prepared. You know, your brother was a neat freak, not only just in business, just his life, period, the way he dressed, everything. He didn't do anything without thinking about it. Beforehand. He was prepared. And that worked well for us, especially because later, once we became successful, that's all paid off because Walt was the one that handled the bit. Like that's the problem I'm having right now. I used to have to worry about it was singing. He did everything else. Now I'm in a situation to where I'm doing A, B, and C, and I'm not. I'm trying to do it the best I can, but it ain't a natural thing with me like it was with him.
You know, one of the things he taught me, he was big on initiative. He got me a job at Ralph's when I was about maybe 13, 14 years old, my first job. And he was upset. I'll never forget this. He was upset because he had gotten me the job through one of his buddies. And the report that came back to his buddy about me was that he's a good guy. He can do things, but he has no initiative.
No initiative.
Now, I'm 13 years old. Exactly. I don't even know what the word initiative really even goddamn means.
What the hell does initiative mean?
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but as I look back on it, to learn what that word meant at that age, what I told my son, because all I can do is carry it forward, right? It's really the difference between good and great. Right. You can be good. There are a lot of people good.
Right.
But if you're trying to be great,
that's a different situation.
You're going to go push in those carts before anybody tell you to push in those carts. You're going to straighten up this aisle before anybody tells you to do it. You're just going to do it.
That's right.
So for him to put that in me at that young of an age, I can't, man.
But that's what you're living on right now. Mm-hmm. That's why you're successful in what you do right now. And he knew that. You know, I never forget, I've laughed, one of the biggest laughs I've had with Walt is the story that he tells when he bought you that little scooter. Even he laughed about it, but at the time, he told me the story many times, he bought you this little putt-putt scooter.
Yeah, he did.
And you thinking, well, wait a minute.
I'm in high school.
But not only that, Walt said it was clear to him that you thought because of who he was.
Yes.
Daddy, you one of the whispers. What the hell? I can't be riding around here on no damn scooter.
Yes.
Well, I said, well, no, you got it wrong, son. Not only are you gonna ride, now I'm gonna even take that. You gonna be walking. You know. When he told me about the story that he had with you about that scooter, it was funny on one hand, but that was your father. Like you said, that's the word initiative coming in. He was trying to tell you way back then. No, you don't.
I don't owe you nothing.
I don't owe you nothing. If anything, you owe me something.
And it was really a story about. It was really a lesson about humility.
Right. Exactly.
At such a young age. Because I was so embarrassed. If anybody's from LA, Slauson. The railroad tracks runs up and down Slauson.
Right. Exactly.
So I would take the railroad track from my mother's house in South LA all the way up to my father's house in Ladera because I didn't want nobody to see me, none of my friends. So I'm on Slauson the whole damn time on this little, little thing, you know. But that taught me so much at 14, 13 years old, man.
Well, no, but it's like I'm saying, you're living on that today. Mm-hmm. That's what you base your life. That's why you are successful in the job that you do today. Mm-hmm. We don't need to go into what you earn and all that, but you're a successful person. Mm-hmm. That's why. Mm. Started early.
The other thing that taught me, we were saying earlier about how your father's usually the only man that tells you they're proud of you, and you receive it because that's your father.
Right.
What that taught me, his death, is to tell my son that more often.
Exactly.
See, just saying it once is
done.
One thing. But you got to reinforce. He got to really believe that.
You got to understand it.
Because if I believe in him,
right,
the whole world is going to believe in him.
No question.
And I think that's important. I think that's part of that legacy. And I think that's what it's all about. It would have been real easy for my daddy to say, here's a brand new car.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what? I'm going to make you your own contract as a singer. No. You ain't got to do nothing. You ain't got to go to college.
That wasn't going to happen with your dad.
Yeah. It was clear.
No. What he's saying is you're going to earn it.
Yeah.
And you're going to appreciate it when you earn it.
Yeah. So to see Walt, the granddaddy.
Oh, wow.
In my house.
Oh, man.
My wife made an interesting comment. We hang together now, you and I. She was saying how comfortable you were last night in my family room. Mm-hmm. But what was interesting about it is where you sat is usually where I sit. Mm-hmm. Off to the left is where my dad sat.
Yeah.
All the time when he came. And he came several times.
Right.
And I said, I know why. She said, why? I said, because as a granddaddy, he could put his shield down.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You see, he didn't have to be a whisperer there.
Oh, no.
Couldn't be a whisperer.
No.
He didn't have to answer no interview questions.
None
He didn't have to pay no bills.
He could just
He
chill.
could just chill
Exactly.
and enjoy the fruit of what he put into me.
Well, you know, when we got home last night, I was telling Marilla, my wife, when I was looking at the pictures in your house of when Walt, you could see his presence, even though he wasn't there, you could feel his presence. But I said to myself, I'm so glad that Walt got to spend the kind of time that he did with his grandkids, because he loved his grandkids to death. Because
Yes.
he told me all the time, you know, he your son playing football, your daughter's just become a doctor. I mean, you know what? Walt was like overwhelmed. He said, my granddaughter's a doctor. And my other daughter's getting ready to become a,
Yeah.
these kind of things. This wasn't about no whispers.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he got to see that and live that before he passed, unbelievable. I'm so happy for that.
Me and you both.
I am so happy for that.